we did the 7 rings, right? 7 rings freestyle on the Nike Apple Watch. So that's a blessing from Apple when we have a hard time finding the studio, right? So we got to get back into the studio, but we were able to make history one time on the Nike Connect 7 rings. So check this out. This is a beautiful indica. We got to show it on both sides, this side and this side. Um, but yeah, Facebook is interesting compared to the other places that we're all logged into: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. So sometimes when you have, it's very interesting though, right? Nobody wants to have health issues, and then when you identify it, when it's actually told from a professional, but then you also felt something, right? Identifying health issues and then going through that is not easy. We don't even like to talk about it because we wanna city pop and celebrate. Very interesting. But then transparency and communication then helps a lot of people who might have gone through something. Something could have been like a health issue as well, or different things that could then affect your health, right? Even too loud of sounds, even as a producer, sometimes too loud of sounds can then affect your ears and your health. Not always do you know when or how to possibly heal this, especially if you, as part of your work as well, right? So if you are still blessed to then find another form of work after retirement or health issues, sometimes then that other form of work you might run into something or experience something that then might cause, even outside of the work, trauma, PTSD. We don't want to intentionally foul ourselves to cause this, and we don't want to call it that as well, right? We all make mistakes. We all sometimes fall. Maybe sometimes we just run into what the dirt bike that's in the back that is too loud, or the motorcycle, or even maybe you were on the field and then that trigger something again, right? Sometimes it's not easy to understand all of that, or then even want to go clock into a pharmacy. Nobody wants to walk into the store, into the pharmacy, unless you get a prescription and you gotta go to the pharmacist, right? Or the OTC, over the counter. Sometimes we might find this faster, or then we might be like, this is something that's more organic. There's something that we might not know the long. So this is marijuana, right? Or cannabis. The song is out now. Or THC, CBD, with a mixture of others. Sometimes we don't want to call it that, so we call it our flowers, right? Our roses, our flowers. Sometimes that, even then when smelling it, sometimes we don't intentionally have high blood pressure as certain individuals, or the food that we eat then can also have a reaction to the blood pressure, right? Just because that's the food we have to eat currently that we're blessed with, or we have high blood pressure that runs into our family lines, but we don't want to talk about that. Or it might be something completely different, might not be that at all, right? So you could have a list of different things. It's not easy, but then you might find flowers. A lot of preconceived thoughts, and a lot of things from the past, the last 200 to 1,000 years, even to this day, have had a lot of rumors or things told about this, right? Even people that own it then telling rumors about it, but then only giving it to certain forms or themselves, right? So then very interesting when rumors and lies are told by the people who own it, to then have everybody else not be able to do it. A lot of families and generations, right? Who then spread the rumors but are the owners of doing it. This does not then, so health is separate from also business, right? So you gotta keep each one transparent. But the song Marijuana is out now, and it does help a lot of individuals. If oats, it could also have a what? The reverse effect. The reverse effect is when it doesn't help you, but then everybody start acting spooky. Like we don't have to start acting spooky about it, right? The reverse effect is then when it increase your blood pressure on accident with the wrong type of flour. That's when it gets into a science, right? Sometimes any flour though is better than sometimes synthetic pharmaceutical, but then not when it creates the opposite reaction, right? That's what is not as a blessing. So then when you then find it's all a plant, but then there's many different plants, probably even more than 500 to 1,000 different plants. So then that's when studying, research, and due diligence come into play, right? This is then when if you already have something in your family that you don't even talk about yourself, but then you're not used to even being relaxed or the opposite because you grabbed the wrong one, and not even your family talk about your wild behavior, that's when now you're acting like this is that, but not even your family talk about your past wild behavior or theirs. Just because now you relax and you want to talk about it. Now they're like, whoa, whoa. Like, bro, that's called communication because you're not transparent and now somebody else is more relaxed. It's not, that's your family. It's crazy. It's out their damn minds. So shout out to, being able to do research and due diligence to then sometimes find the right flowers. Shout out to roses, right? People give roses away to people who deserve their flowers because they're legends, right? They do a lot of work. So shout out to the people who give me loyalty and respect, but then also shout out to individuals who, allow us to have our flowers and then do research and due diligence to just pick the right one, especially at lower cost. That's when it becomes not real life too, right? So then once somebody or people in health that have to have their flowers just by transparency and showing like, bro, or nah, bro, but that's when you're being sarcastic to that person, right? Or a girl, where you tell them that you have health issues with transparency, just because you already fly, you look good and this and that, that doesn't mean that internally or all of this that you didn't go through that. And then you cannot have them other, so that's when it gets blurred lines, right? Gray lines is when other individuals have a higher cost for your flowers for people that are transparent. That's what we cannot do. We have to lower the cost. Also, the lower the cost of living. Once it gets too high, nobody can do anything. So we gotta lower the cost of living and then not use wordplay. So, you know, if we can lower the cost and continue to do our research, beautiful, and our health and longevity can then continue to be of benefit for the whole or even for ourselves, just because we're not living in certain pain or certain difficulties. But if we lower the cost, that could then help people with their pain and then continue to, do everything else in life. So if they torturously interfere me and give me PTSD, sometimes then being relaxed and having my flowers can help me focus on paying my rent. So if the cops is trying to arrest you and then take away your money, then when you can reduce that PTSD, right, out of good faith, like, I need some more money. How are you trying to stop that when I'm trying to pay my mom's rent? That's when it doesn't make sense to have high costs and hold it against individuals that are in good faith, right? That's when we shout out to all our real ones. Shout out to research, right? Shout out to California, Oregon, Israel, different parts of the world, the United States, for allowing us to do research, right? And help people that have sometimes health issues and a list of other different things that can be, chronically sometimes holding the A players back. So when the A player get injured, they want to be back in the game. So when Shaq get injured, they want to be back in the game fast. But then when you cannot go see a doctor or you cannot have your medicine to heal, how is Tracy McGrady or Kobe about to get back in the game if the doctor says now it costs more than your contract? So then if the doctor say it costs more than 1 billion to fix Curry up, and that's the all-star player, now this is when it's torturous interference, right? There ain't nobody make 1 billion like Curry off a Nike deal like that and then say the doctor costs 3 billion. That's when we gotta have good faith, right? And health as well, and that's the winners club. So shout out to my real ones. We like different edibles, different gummies, different RSO oils that even can help people with seizures, right? Some people that have seizures might be the smartest people in the world, but you just don't know that because they're having a seizure. You like you might not know because I might be having a bad day and I'm not outside, right? But I just did 50 records and I was in a club all the time when I was younger, right? Always on stage. But then when my health get to some issues, you don't see me in Miami as much. You don't see me around the globe because if the cost is too high and then they have the police trying to not allow me to pay my rent, that's when it's torturous interference, right? And when they use different family members to then try to act like they have to talk while you're on live. This is when other shows and other individuals have to try to speak louder than you speaking just because you want to take care of your health. And you speak at a lower decibel volume. Then individuals want to speak at a higher volume and while professionals are speaking. So there's when everybody in the class, but the teacher has health issues, but it's the smartest teacher in college. But now everybody is speaking, right? That's when the whole entire class becomes a torturous interference to the smartest teacher who's able to help everybody, sometimes even financially. They have more money than the entire class. But then all the students become terrorists. That's not good to the person that has to show transparency, that also is smart, work with different college professors, might have different college classes as well, but that's also one of the richest people or even the smartest. That's why once you start holding certain things back or against people who have to get their flowers, even the United States or different governments, right? We have to make it easy. That's when even the president might need help, right? If the president need help and it costs more than 200,000, costs 2 million for your help. Sometimes it is more beneficial to use a flower than to make less. You're the president and your surgery costs more than what you make. Imagine that, right? Imagine you make 200,000 a year to 400,000 a year, and your surgery costs 2 million. That's when sometimes maybe different things, maybe it's not even a surgery, that you can have preventative care before that you go into surgery. And sometimes the flower might be that thing that doesn't cost over 200,000. You the president not allowed to make more than a certain amount, but now your prosthetic leg costs 1 million. That's when sometimes things like an organic flower can help that before you then find out that, oh, okay, maybe you don't have to go through that $2 million surgery. It's because then you use preventative care, you lowered your blood pressure, that then didn't lead to different underlying effects, and then that actually saved the cost of even insurance and doctors themselves. Even though doctors do get paid, that's not then how they would be getting paid, right? So I cannot speak for all of that, but then I have to jump in and say that's when, sometimes lowering the cost of living, lowering the cost of food, and not having all these preconceived notations or preconceived notions about something, is sometimes better to just be real life with it. So shout out to my real ones tuning in. We just wanted to break that down and also give it a try. This is Cloudberry. Cloudberry, one of my favorites. I think it's a hybrid, but it's more of an indica though. We could do more research and really look it up. We like indica because we like to be relaxed even at night, which is very interesting, right? People then start to get spooky, like, why would you be relaxed at night already and stuff? Sometimes it has the opposite effect for certain individuals, which then give you a relaxed way, but then you're actually able to do more work relaxed compared to you get tired and you're just more wild, but then you sleep and you're all like maybe feel like caffeinated or blood pressure through the roof. You're wild, but then fall asleep earlier. Interesting variables when it comes to health, and then actually identifying what you might be going through, to being on the field, to being a baller, or to being like, in real life on the field, jumping out of planes and all that, or like you just maybe needed a regular surgery, you found out, or you're underweight and you want to eat more. Imagine you underweight and you actually want to eat more, but your body is not. Like, if you underweight and your eyes want you to eat more, imagine your body just reject the food though, doesn't absorb the food, but you would want to, and your mind knows that you gotta eat more because it's weight gain season for the Winners Club, right? Then sometimes when you find the right flour, you can not only eat that without throwing up, but you can eat that and your body absorbs it. And that's what we're talking about, our flowers and our roses. So many people, they don't understand that they can eat everything and it shows in their body. Their weight is actually more than the other person. That their mindset is like, bro, I want to gain 50 pounds. That would be beneficial to the person underweight. But then it also, just because they have that mindset and they know that, maybe the cost of food is too expensive, but maybe their body, for some odd reason from what they went through in health, rejects it. Even though they want to eat everything. They're doing cheap eats with it, right? We're doing cheap eats. We're continuing to look for the best deals. We're online eating to have accountability, to then actually meet that weight gain goal. But then when it's not happening, just due to maybe finances, so then we lower the cost of food and living, or when you know that you might be going through something and you want to do that, but then it just doesn't work that way for some odd reason. Then you find maybe it's just a flower, right, or a plant. You didn't have things against it before, you just weren't doing it before, right? So then people say like, oh, this or that. It's like you're not for or against, but then you are able to see why. So then I'm for it because for my health, I can then eat more, right? That's when you show that it's a positive thing, because I'm just wanting to eat more to gain weight, while other people are ready with more money and with less food, bigger than me, or with more food. So then, and they can absorb it. They're eating cake, they're eating this or that, where you cannot even eat a grape to absorb it, and then your body rejects it, but then a flower can help that. Sometimes that can then be beautiful. So shout out to cloudberry. That's mixing the berries with cloudberry, and we could also like jump more into it, but we're just live chilling right now. Also, if you exercise, you should be able to then eat more calories, right? Sometimes then that's not always true though, to the person who went through like internal health effects or certain medicines that were to help you but then also worked against you. That's a very interesting variable too. When you have to use medicines that help you but then work against you, but then you might find something that's an organic flower that then it offsets that, or then you don't need those prescription medicines. Although that doesn't always mean you don't need it. Sometimes then the percentages or the dosing is different, or the side effects that would happen that help you with one but then have side effects that it still keeps you alive. The medicine is helping keep you alive, but the side effects sometimes then are, you still feel that and you don't want that. Sometimes the flower, which is the song also marijuana that's out now, or cannabis, THC, CBG, CBN, CBD, and different oils and vapes. Sometimes that, if we could lower the cost of that, then the A players is not having to say that it's an A player, but maybe somebody that works a lot or is of importance in a certain medical field or something, then they can help out everybody even more too. So imagine the doctor or the nurses, right? Instead of certain people using drugs to stay up all night like cocaine, that does help certain individuals, or certain medicines like caffeine. It helps when people gotta do 3-4 day surgeries, right? And we gotta keep people alive. Or if you're in war and you just got down, the cocaine could probably get you back up to run like Shawshank Redemption, right? You might start running and save maybe even the general, right? Then that could then sometimes help, but sometimes it's a flower that can do that instead of the opposite, right? Sometimes those things then also have a help, a reward risk benefit to it, right? That's super blood pressure, but you are for certain days. Sometimes a flower could have a different, it could be healthier too, reaction for even those professionals. So I like to do business 24/7. That doesn't mean I should. So just because I like to do business 24/7, because I went through health things, so then that's more peaceful, doesn't always mean I maybe should, but then maybe also then I can, just by using a flower. So maybe it's not 24/7, it's not being sarcastic, but sometimes closers, right? Black Friday, they sometimes save the ROI, the return on investment, so the business doesn't even close down the next year. Sometimes just a Black Friday alone, that person can outwork the the entire uh, roster, or the every other employee that also works with the employer. Sometimes that person is actually the one with that much customers, or they're that much better at communicating, and that doesn't mean that they're a better person, but maybe their skills would then allow them to save the company, or it save everybody else time too, where they can have a day off because they want to work, bro. It's like, bro, clock me in. I'd rather work than you can have the day off. Imagine that. Imagine a worker or the person who just love to work like they're crazy, but not literally. They would just rather work than be at their house. Or maybe they have too much siblings and the cost is too expensive even though they're the best worker, and now their health is getting to them. Or it doesn't have to mean they're the best worker either. It could be everybody, right? Now they show improvements, even comprehension and learning. That can sometimes happen if you choose the right one, or if you had things that affect your health, but then you use that to get back in a game. Like you're on the bench and now you want to maybe try to perform better. That doesn't then mean that you're not disabled though, or that doesn't then mean that. So if Kobe is healing already, right? Or if somebody goes through injuries, or if you go through um seizures all the time, that doesn't then mean that you 100% better. But that means that maybe you didn't go through 20 seizures, right? But maybe you the best worker, and maybe 20 seizures only last 5 minutes, but that's spooky though, right? So then you use the flour or the oil, and it doesn't cost that much, and it's better, and now you don't go through seizures. That doesn't mean that you're not disabled, right? Or you don't have PTSD, but that means your life feels better and you're not going through trauma or health issues like 20 seizures. So 20 seizures is not good to go through, but that then doesn't mean that you're not, like, you gotta get taken off all of that, right? Or then you gotta work to 65. So then that's where sometimes having flour and at a lower cost can help people with health issues, especially when they like to work, which is maybe they like to be crazy and work more than everybody else. That doesn't mean that everybody else doesn't get flour, or sometimes that person could just be of more benefit to each other person as well, because maybe now they go to work less, right? Just because they were maybe on the field and they got hit, or they have PTSD, or at an older age they start having health issues, or even asthma or other things, right? That's where cloudberry can help me. But I had to identify that that's cloudberry. And then I only took 3 puffs of cloudberry. But then sometimes, right, people don't want to use smoke. They want to use vape instead. Sometimes, but sometimes smoking is actually better for you too. But then vape and compared to that, all different as well. All feel different and all help you differently. Even people that are regular, even people that have health issues. That's why it's not really a spooky subject, right? It's just learning, doing your research and doing your due diligence, and knowing that you gotta pick the right one. Not everybody love oranges, then it causes acid reflux, right? But some people like watermelon and it's not an orange, or some people like a grape but it's not an orange or a watermelon. That's like picking the flower, even though it's one form of flower, right? That's all fruits, but it's all different fruits. It's one flower, so it's still in the category of being a plant. And then it's in the category of being a cannabis marijuana plant. But then each one is way different still. So fruits are all different, but then now there's different apples, right? There's mountain apples, there's Fiji apples, there's green apples. Some people don't want the sour candy apple. Some people want the regular Fuji apple, the red one that's clean and classic. Some people love the green one, the granny apple. They're like, bro, put caramel and make that thing green. But then that's all apples though. Then mountain apple from the back of the mountain, that's a combo kind of boat, is as small only, is different from a Fuji, a green apple, a granny apple, or regular red apple. And then there's 100 different apples. But then that's all in the fruits category, right? So that's just a flower, but then it's under this, the cannabis or the marijuana, or a different name you could call it too. Some people don't even want to say that name, right? Just that name alone, then it changes the whole misconception of everything compared to a rose. But the rose could be toxic, and a rose is not this kind of flower, and not everybody wanna hold on to a rose or eat a rose. But then if you find this, which is this kind of flower, then you might want to eat it. You might want to make a butter. It might help you different than a grape or than other even fruits that might be a form of a flower, right? So then this is just a cannabis flower, but then there's like 1,000 to even maybe more than 1,000 different apples or a cannabis flower. So if you keep picking the green apple, you about to be like, bro, I don't even like green apples. Then the person who eat this one, they about to be like, why you not eating the red Fuji apple? It's the best one I like. Then they give it to you and then, bro, I love apples now. It's like, what are you talking about? All you had to choose was the right apple instead of eating oranges, right? So then, if you're choosing one flower might be different than the one that you were supposed to just pick. And then I'm like, you should have just have berry pie. Berry pie wasn't whatever you got from your friend and when you was in a spooky hour situation, right? And then it wasn't even the right flower. So you was doing spooky hours with that friend and then it wasn't the correct flower though. So then you was with that friend shopping and then you was eating green apples only. Then you go to meet this friend. Now they tell you like, bro, eat that apple. Now you love apples and that's a better friend. It's not a better friend though. It's just that they weren't aware that you guys was only eating green apples running around spooky compared to then your other friend show you red apples and maybe both of them weren't running around spooky. They just like the green apple. So then when you were with that friend, they like the green one. But the green one didn't do what you like. Then you go to that friend, you like the red apple. They're both your best friends still. And you just chose to eat a red apple instead. So then if you chose something different than berry pie, I like berry pie. That doesn't mean I'm not everybody's best friend still, right? So that's what we call real life. So we like berry pie, and we like to choose maybe things that lean more towards the indica. That doesn't mean we're not best friends, even if the person still has a sativa, right? So, boom, we still like people with sativa, but only thing is if somebody chooses to pick a sativa and they're in a situation where they need an indica, they might not notice or be able to identify that that was the issue. So then 2 years ago, maybe you tried that one, and then now you were like, it held my health, but I felt paranoid. Maybe you were supposed to pick a berry pie, not two. So maybe 2 years ago, you were supposed to pick a berry pie or something different. But then sometimes, even then, later on, you might have to change it and then identify that, okay, so I love berry pie. I started using it for two weeks, or maybe I started using Florida Seal or cream cream fatale. If I use that for 1 month, I might end up realizing like after I eat the apple for 1 month, it doesn't do the same thing for me. Just because even my body got used to eating the apple too much. Now maybe I have to eat the green apple and it shows that it's way different for me now. So after eating the red apple for 1 month, because you found that, then you realize that's when you eat the green apple 2 weeks later. And it has a different benefit. But that's variables that you would have to account for. So then if you use an indica for 2 weeks, maybe then you use a hybrid, and then the hybrid or the sativa works. But then you get to do that 1 week later and go back, and then you realize, oh, okay, that's when, if I have red apples for 2 weeks, green apple for 1 week, and then red apple again, I like both. And it's not the friends, I still love my friends. It's just a variable of how you eat and how you digest the apple or the flower, right? So then we drink teas. Everybody, not everybody loves to drink tea. Some people want the venti coffee frappuccino, but then they learn like, oh, okay, so if I drink tea all the time, I don't drink coffee. Maybe then sometimes I drink tea or coffee. That's a flower, especially tea. You put we That's different types of forms of flour to make the tea, or coffee beans that have flowers with it off of the coffee bean flower tree, right? So then a lot of people, they go into Starbucks or different um what drink stores or boba teas, different facilities that have different drinks. Some people like the coffee, some people like the tea, or sometimes you gotta know when to mix it. Or sometimes maybe I should go to tea now because it's too acidic. But also, what if I was then learning to strengthen my acid reflux? Then I'm drinking more coffee. But then you're learning to balance the tea or the coffee. That's a form of caffeine, though, that can sometimes help productivity, right? So then you gotta just choose. If there's 5,000, what if there's 10,000 different flowers? You don't even know which one you just got. That's when sometimes it's harder, but sometimes that can still be a benefit for you or for a lot of individuals, right? To find out that even if it's any tea, that tea will still have different things in there for you, different antibodies or different probiotics or different forms of things that might have been in the tea or even in the coffee, right? That have a lot of benefits for you in tea and coffee, but it's preference. So then you gotta find the right flower because it could be of different preference. One flower could be more like an orange, which is maybe like tangy and it's orange. Another flower could be more like coffee. But what if you weren't trying to find the orange or the coffee? You might have been trying to find a blueberry flower. So then what if somebody doesn't eat blueberries in real life, but then they find out the flower? That helps them in real life because it's more of an indica. Okay, but I just wanted to say, that's what I wanted to break down a little bit. But I just gotta eat. So the new music is out now. I just wanted to say that's my problem with food, right?
If you're gonna focus on music, then stop doing this. If you're gonna focus on t-shirts, stop doing it.
So big shout out to my real ones. We just had to tune in live. We didn't want to stay here too long, right? And talk too much. But I'm working on my health right now and my digestive system. And if you go to the Facebook pictures, that's what happened to me, right? But the Winners Club 7 Rings is out now. Shout out to my real ones. Go download it on Apple Music.